It's been a decade since that fateful November 8, 2013, a date that will go down in Philippine history. I was about to enter my final semester in college, awaiting for my first degree at that time. Super Typhoon Yolanda, also known internationally as Haiyan, unleashed its fury on the vulnerable eastern Visayas region, leaving a trail of devastation that continues to haunt us. It claimed thousands of lives, displaced millions, and caused billions of pesos in damage. As we commemorate this solemn anniversary, I am drawn into deep reflection. This is more than just a story about a fierce storm. It is a story about how that pivotal day reshaped the very core of our country. It changed the course of our media and politics in unexpected ways, leaving a legacy that continues to this day. Before we begin this solemn journey through our history, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell. This allows you to stay up to date on our upcoming content. Just as the storm is formed somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, the Philippines was dealing with a major political crisis, the pork barrel scam. The alleged mastermind, Jalet Nim Napoles, was at the center of this controversy due to her involvement in a scheme that misappropriated public funds. The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearing, in which Napoles was expected to testify or provide information about the scandal, was one of the most anticipated events at the time. However, as the storm intensified and entered in the Philippine Area of Responsibility, or PAR, the country's media outlets shifted our attention back and forth between the impending disaster and the political scandal. The public's attention in the city was divided between reports about the pork barrel queen and the approaching typhoon. The scandal had enthralled the country, with many eagerly anticipating any developments or revelations from Napoles. In contrast, in provinces that were potentially in the path of the storm, local chief executives, especially in eastern Visayas, made the prudent decision to suspend classes and work for the next 2 days. This was a precautionary measure to ensure student safety and others to allow communities to prepare for the impending disaster as Typhoon Yolanda would bore down on them with increasing ferocity. You can see in the map that the island province of Bohol was raised a red rainfall warning advisory. They were at that time on recovery mode from a 7.2 magnitude earthquake just less than a month ago. The juxtaposition of these two major events, the political scandal and the impending natural disaster, highlighted the complexities of the country's problems at the time. Juan de la Cruz had a confusing and tense day on Thursday, November 7, 2013. Protests and questions surrounded Napoles outside the Senate building. The impending storm on the other hand demanded the rest of the nation's attention. The spotlight on that morning was formally on Napoles as she faced senators for questioning during the hearing. Despite the probing questions, Napoles repeatedly invoked, quote, her right against self-incrimination, unquote, and claimed she didn't know critical details. Then Senator Miriam Defensor, known for her sharp legal acumen, posed probing questions and provided legal counsel to the then 49-year-old woman embroiled in the controversy. Meanwhile, in the provinces that would soon bear the brunt of the approaching super typhoon, the top priority was stockpiling essentials and preparing for the impending disaster. As the storm intensified, communities in vulnerable areas took precautionary measures to ensure their safety, rather than hearing over what happened in the metropolis. The following evening, then President Benigno Aquino III, or Pinoy, addressed the nation via live television. He didn't tackle about the PDAF or DAP. He issued a solemn warning to the public to prepare for the impending landfall of the deadliest storm. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, he assigned his cabinet the critical task of rapidly preparing and delivering aid in the aftermath of the impending disaster. D-Day, Friday, November 8, 2013. Super Typhoon Yolanda made landfall in Haiyan, Eastern Samar at 4:40 a.m., just moments before the usual start of breakfast programs across the country. As the typhoon unleashed its fury, regular programming was halted across the country, and television networks switched to live coverage of the disaster. Journalists and reporters from various networks risked their lives to bring the public's attention to the harrowing scenes from Tacloban City and its surrounding areas. Atom Araulio, who bravely reported live there for ABS-CBN's Umagang Kay Ganda before 6 a.m., was one notable figure in the coverage. As the floodwaters rose quickly during the storm surge, he and his crew sought refuge in a commercial building on the second floor. GMA, GK Manikat and Lap Anyaber were dispatched to cover the disaster, while communication lines were down. Onlookers sought refuge at Palo Cathedral, but ferocious winds ripped off its roof. For her, it was a terrifying experience. Local residents came to her aid during the time she was out of contact. Later, she appeared on GMA News TV's State of the Nation, holding back some tears as she recounted the events of the day. TV5 assigned Ramon Tulfo to assess the damage, and state-owned PTV4 dispatched George Bandola to provide his perspective of the unfolding crisis. These reporters and journalists passed diverged in the years following the typhoon. As of 2023, Araulio moved to GMA and continued his career as a respected journalist. Aniver joined the Net25 family from GMA. Manika tried to run as senator in 2019, although he did not secure a seat. He returned to GMA for one show, but his exposure in the media was reduced in comparison to his earlier career. Tulfo became the spokesperson of Partido Reforma, and Bandola was assigned to DZME 1530. Though their dedicated reporting on resilience during the storm's darkest hours, these journalists played an important role in conveying the gravity of the situation to the nation and the world, ensuring that the stories of resilience and tragedy from Yolanda will never be forgotten. Just before the end of the day, Metro Manila experienced rain and was raised to storm signal number 1, as did my home province of Pampanga, and I wondered if it was the edge of that super typhoon. Super Typhoon Yolanda claimed the lives of 6,300 people and affected 13 million people across 44 provinces. The total damage was devastating, 95.5 billion pesos, making it the costliest typhoon ever experienced in our living memory. Haiyan's historic church lost its roof, which was dated in the 18th century, and the facade and retablo were severely damaged. The walls and bell tower were spared, and the church was painstakingly restored and would be finished just before the end of the decade. In latest Landing Memorial Park in Palo, one of the statues was toppled by the sheer force. It was Carlos P. Romulos. The Metro Manila Development Authority dispatched and helped him stood upright after about 3 weeks. The country's reaction to the disaster was characterized by unity and strong sense of national solidarity. Activities that had been planned, particularly in Metro Manila, were scaled back, postponed, or cancelled entirely to show respect for the victims and solidarity with the affected areas. Those who were unable to do those things were allotted a moment of silence. Most of our private institutions launched their own as well, with some foregoing or scaling back on the then upcoming Christmas and holiday festivities. During this period, media outlets played an important role. For 17 days of the rest of November, the government media consortium Media ng Bayan broadcasted non-stop Tulong ng Bayan to raise funds and to provide aid information to those in need. However, the national government's slow delivery of aid led to growing impatience among affected individuals, and there were reports of looting in some cases as people struggled to meet their immediate needs. Our media and entertainment industries responded to the disaster in various ways to support their recovery efforts. ABS-CBN modified its traditional Christmas ID song lyrics, which was released 2 days before the storm, to convey a message of solidarity, and promoted aid through special t-shirts and a solidarity concert. GMA's exclusive A talent, Julian San Jose, performed the touching song Pagbangon to inspire hope and resilience. On TV5, the Philippine Basketball Association observed a moment of silence for the victims during the opening of their new season, demonstrating their collective mourning and their determination to be rebuilt. These responses highlighted resilience and unity of the Filipino people in the face of adversity and showcased how the media and entertainment sectors played a vital role in channeling support and encouraging recovery efforts. As a result, Pope Francis visited Tacloban on January 17, 2015, and as part of his 5-day visit to the country. His visit coincided with the threat of a typhoon, which is Amang, which was initially poised to hit the city, potentially inflicting the same level of trauma as the locals did in November 2013. He decided to cut short the visit early, but eventually, the storm changed course. This visit sent a message of hope and solidarity to the people of Tacloban, representing the international community's concern and support for those affected by the tragedy. It isn't called mercy and compassion for no reason. The impact of Super Typhoon Yolanda extended far beyond our country. It draws attention of the international community and prominent figures in media and politics. One of them is Anderson Cooper, a renowned journalist from CNN. He arrived in Tacloban to cover the aftermath of this devastating storm. 5 days after the disaster, he reported on the challenges and deficiencies in the local relief efforts in Tacloban. Cooper provided real-time updates via his Twitter, which is now X, at AC360, detailing the lack of adequate search and rescue operations and overall disorganization in the affected area. Cooper's coverage of the situation triggered Corina Sanchez, the wife of Rojas, who was then the Secretary of Department of Interior and Local Government. Sanchez publicly criticized Cooper, reporting on her DZMM radio program, questioning his understanding of the situation. In response, Cooper defended his coverage, clarifying that he had never claimed there was no government presence in Tacloban. He emphasized that his reports were based on what he had witnessed on the ground and the accounts of the people he had spoken to. Meanwhile, on the international stage, Yeb Sanyo, a Filipino climate negotiator, was attending COP19 in Poland 3 days after the typhoon struck. In a poignant act of solidarity with the victims, he staged a hunger strike to draw attention to the urgent need for action on climate change and disaster resilience. The devastation caused by Super Typhoon Yolanda prompted significant changes in how the Philippines dealt with typhoons and other extreme weather events. In response to the storm's devastation, the Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration, or PAGASA, made several significant changes to its protocols and systems. Apart from retiring that name from the list of typhoon names, PAGASA introduced color-coded storm search warnings in 2015 to rectify its fuzziness. The powerful storm surge caused by Yolanda, as high as 7 meters, was a significant factor in extensive damage and loss of life, and the introduction aimed to provide specific warnings about the specific threat associated with typhoons. These advisories assist coastal communities in better preparing for and responding to storm surges, which can cause devastating coastal flooding. Furthermore, they revised the Typhoon Public Storm Signal System in the same year by introducing Signal Number 5. This signaled a heightened level of danger and risk associated with exceptionally powerful typhoons. Its introduction was a recognition of the need to communicate the severity of the storm more effectively to the public and authorities, allowing for better preparation and response to such extreme weather events. The storm's aftermath not only left physical scars on the affected areas and the meteorological landscape, but it also had a significant impact on the country's political landscape. As the devastation unfolded, it appeared to temporarily push existing political issues aside, especially the pork barrel scam, but they quickly resurfaced. Just about 11 days after the typhoon struck, on November 19th, the Supreme Court rendered a historic ruling declaring Priority Development Assistance Plan, or the PDAF, unconstitutional. Many politically engaged netizens lamented how the taxpayers' money wasted that were channeled through PDAF and other government programs like the Disbursement Acceleration Program, or DAP, also later struck down, could have been better utilized to mitigate the natural disaster's effects or provide more substantial aid to those in need. Just over a month after the storm, Pinoy appointed former Senator Ping Lacson as the rehabilitation czar, while a public spat erupted between then Tacloban Mayor Alfred Romualdez and Rojas over aid distribution. This altercation was videotaped or recorded and widely circulated online, prompting accusations that the footage had been edited to manipulate public perception. Rojas accused the Romualdez campaign of attempting to conceal the mayor's perceived flaws. Romualdez and Pinoy engaged later in a verbal brawl in the weeks after the typhoon. While defending Rojas, Aquino chastised the Tacloban local government for its perceived lack of preparation. According to Pinoy, the task division was clear, with Romualdez in charge of leading relief distribution and the city's normalization, and the national government in charge of providing relief, handling cadaver recovery, maintaining peace and order, and clearing the streets. 3 years later, in 2016, Romualdez cleared Rojas from any doings, stating that Rojas had done his best and put his life in danger during typhoon. The tension between their camps, however, had been left a lasting impression on the people of Tacloban, and many had not forgotten Rojas' actions during the critical time, and he attacked them repeatedly on social media about the Yolanda funds. The subsequent presidential elections revealed a political schism in Eastern Visayas, with Mar winning in the Samar provinces but not in Leyte, which was claimed by the eventual winner, then Davao City Mayor Rodrigo Duterte, who was born in that province. Bongbong Marcos won the vice presidential election in Leyte, where his maternal family has clout, while the rest of the region favored the eventual winner, Leni Robredo. 6 years later, in the recent presidential election, Bongbong Marcos emerged as the region's preferred candidate, with the exception of Northern and Eastern Samar, while Sara Duterte won in all provinces. These political dynamics reflect the complex interplay of historical allegiances, personalities, and the long-term consequence of past events, including the trauma and challenges brought by the Super Typhoon. The mass graves outside the Palo Cathedral and the haunting presence of Envy Eva Jocelyn, which was carried ashore in Tacloban and transformed into a monument, are still visible today. They serve as stark reminders of the magnitude of that devastating storm. Super Typhoon Yolanda was a terrifying survival story. In the present, we face a new set of challenges, such as the prevailing El Nino and the looming threat of global warming or global boiling by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Faced with these pressing issues, we must never lose sight of the profound lessons we've learned a decade ago. November 8, 2013 may have brought us to our knees, but it also revealed that Filipino people's indomitable spirit. It's a day that we will live on in our collective memory, one we will never forget. As we remember the fateful day, let us also look forward, fortified by the knowledge that we have resilience and strength to overcome whatever challenges lie ahead.